recently, and it's a
Because I live in Detroit, I was able to get tuition-free college through the Detroit Promise. I feel very fortunate working with the Detroit Promise. They were able to afford me so many opportunities. I'm currently studying media production and journalism at University of Michigan Dearborn. I'm looking to take my talents further into the production industry, short films. I love working with people here, and this is where I want to be. And that's why I'm Detroit for life.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. My name is Saeed Khan, broadcasting from Detroit with much warmer weather today and heading our way next week. I have a feeling that when we broadcast next week, we will be sweltering. Anyways, we are joined now with our full complement of guests. We have, of course, the troika of lawyers, Joel Sklar, Bill Seikaly, and Steve Fishman. We are joined by President of BME Consulting and former Director of Wayne County Public Service Department, Beverly Watts. We have labor and community activist Barb Ingalls, veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, and of course, co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. Well, we're going to pick up where we left off last time, and we're going to go to court. A lot of cases coming up, including a few that we actually didn't have on the schedule for today, but came down as breaking news. It looks like SCOTUS has been busy with two cases, not surprising given the fact that we're coming up to the end of the term, with the end of June coming up. So we have yesterday's case, a unanimous decision signed by Squeeze Bestie, Justice Kavanaugh, on the status of mifepristone, the so-called abortion pill, that the United States Supreme Court said that this will be allowed to remain in place. There will be no ban on it. The case came down, what some would argue is more procedurally, that those who brought forth the claim did not have standing, anti-abortion activists and doctors. It seems as though it is certainly a victory, but for how long? Thoughts on this?
Well, I don't know how much of a victory it is when they put right in the, I've got a little laryngitis, so it grates on you guys. Just tell me and I'll shut up. When they pretty much put in there, I didn't read the whole opinion, I just read the summary, that they were just looking for somebody who's got standing. I mean, that's basically all they said.
Nothing on the merits.
The easiest way to kick a case is to say that you don't have standing, and then you don't have to decide the merits. So I kind of agree with the way you said it, Saeed. It's a victory, but it's like it's the first inning and you're up 2-1, you know.
And I truly think that this is one thing that they kicking it down the road until after November, and that's my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Beverly, on that, I mean, I hate to sound cynical with the current composition of the Supreme Court, but do you think that this was a way to sort of show that the Supreme Court isn't as hostile to abortion as it was, say, 2 years ago with Dobbs? And are they trying to then neutralize abortion as being a political hot topic going into November?
Absolutely, that's what I think. Because after what they saw when they, did away with Roe v. Wade and see the, the blue wave that came, they're no dummies. Well, that's up for debate too. But anyway, keep it on topic.
So we have 8 people here. We're one short of a Supreme Court. We'll have ML Elric abstain. Who's a regular. How many of you think that this is strictly a political ploy? Hence.
Well, yes, but to a point, they didn't have standing. So, I agree with Beverly 100%. I think that even these guys can see that they have a minority position in every state, maybe not Alabama, let's say, but in the country, they have a very small minority position. But the standing part, that one was pretty easy, it seems to me. Joel and Bill would know better. They're civil guys, but
I think that this court, my point would be that they would go, if they could go in contortions to make it really, something that they could review on the merits, they would. I think this was I think they chose not to, but this court will do anything they want to do. There's no rules here. If they wanted to discuss it on the merits, you would have had an opinion on the merits, and they would have justified the standing issue.
The thought of Alito right. and Thomas being contortionists is kind of like making me throw up in my mouth a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and give that to being a actually an 8-0, but Steve providing a concurring opinion.
Right.
So not joining the majority. Allan.
I mean, I think what I read was that, besides that they said these people had no standing, is that basically they're saying, well, they have no standing, but here's another way, suggesting other ways to take away people's rights. You can legislatively take away their rights and making all these recommendations, okay, you guys fucked up, but here's how you do it. And like you say, a 9-0 ruling. Clearly, they saw there was no wiggle room there to play around with it, because even usually Alito and Thomas automatically are against the majority on a case like this. So,
the New York Times had an article on women who are leaving states where abortion is illegal, going all over the country. I think 170,000 women so far, at least that they've reported, and this is, there's going to be tax freedom, but we're going. It's terrifying that we're heading backwards, but the effect is real.
So, Joel, are we heading backwards in a regression when it comes to rights, or are we heading backwards in the sense that this country is just going to become more divided and people are going to move to respective states?
Rights, absolutely rights. I think by rights, yes. I think that there'll be a restriction on civil rights. I think that there's going to be more leeway given to the states, and the states are not going to, some states are going to be more liberal than others, but there will not be that federal standard that's as strong as as strong as I need it to be to really litigate these Section 83 cases, these constitutional concerns. I think the court's going to do a lot of limitations. I hope not. I hope I'm wrong, but I think.
Yeah, and we're going to be back to pre-Wade when I grew up in a community similar to this one, Grosse Pointe. And there were always girls who got pregnant, and they would get on a plane. Apparently, the gate at Port Columbus Airport looked like, like everybody was going for a mother-daughter trip. They'd get on the plane, fly to New York City, where it was legal, have their abortion, and fly home that afternoon. They'd miss one day of school. It cost, a few $100s. You had the plane ticket, you had the procedure, you had whatever. And it was easily affordable to people with means, but it's not easily affordable or even available to women without means. And so it's going to hurt, it's not going to hurt the kind of people, the Republican senators' daughters, but it's definitely going to hurt poor people in this, or poor women in the state.
And Nancy, you're absolutely right, especially those underserved communities. So what you're going to do is have more illegal, abortions. You're going to have more death. You're going to have more special needs. It's going to affect those underserved communities as usual.
Right. Another big destination back then was Puerto Rico, and that was, you could wrap it around a vacation, just kind of hop down there and get some sun and get, dispose of your pregnancy, and that was the end of it. But
abortion will never go away.
Of course it won't. Women have unwanted pregnancies are a fact of our biological lives, and that's just the way it is, and it's the way it's going to be. I think that it's worth spending at least a minute or two on the facts of this particular case. I've become a big fan of Dahlia Lithwick and Mark David Stern, who write for Slate.com. And she's very smart on the Supreme Court. I'm just going to read just a few sentences here. She said this ruling, the FDA, this is the original ruling that was before the court, FDA versus Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine, grew out of arguably the most obscene case of judge shopping in recent memory. A far-right Christian nationalist law firm called the Alliance Defending Freedom brought together a group of anti-abortion doctors and dentists in 2022 to serve as plaintiffs in a lawsuit against mifepristone. The plaintiffs argued falsely that the drug is extraordinarily dangerous to women and girls, sends countless patients to the hospital with life-threatening conditions, and should never have been approved. That is simply bullshit. It's a lie. I mean, that isn't even close to the truth. And the fact that they specifically filed this in that district so they could get that Matthew Kaczmarek, or whatever the guy's name is, to be the judge for this, another Trump appointee. I mean, all the people who refused to vote for Hillary and thought the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court was just alarmism, I hope they are. Well, I hope they're sorry, but I know they're not.
Nancy, did the article say anything about mifeprestone's impact on enamel?
Well, I mean, the idea that they could get dentists in this thing is just
that would be the buy-in, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Crazy.
Tooth enamel, right?
Well, I think that now that Dobbs has been the law for a couple of years in the land, I think the next battleground is, of course, contraceptives, and it seems as though it's not only going to be to revert back to pre-Wade, it's going to be pre-Griswold v. Connecticut, which then legalized contraceptives.
And again, all of this is based on lies. I mean, these people believe that the pill, the birth control pill, is an abortifacient. The IUD, an abortifacient. Basically the only birth control that they would recognize would be, the rhythm method, which is another.
That's how I got here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
You're ready for the rhythm. You're ready for the rhythm.
We have a name for people who practice the rhythm method. We call them parents. So
Barb, I just took a plane. When I got here. So, Bill.
Bill's on mute for some reason. Let's
Bill, you're on mute. Okay. Now he gropes for the unmute button. Can you not unmute him?
Well, listen, I'll fill in. I think they're going back on Griswold.
There we go. There you go. There you go, Bill.
Sorry. Go ahead. And just to continue, they're going to go back on contraception, but they're looking at every right that has been given us for the last 50, 60 years.
Exactly.
And it's going to go back to the states. And I'm telling you, soon there'll be a referendum on the 13th Amendment from this. So this is insane what's happening.
It is insane. Yes.
And you're turning this, again, it's giving, the Civil War still exists. It's fueling embers for that. It's just, it is completely insane to do what we're doing, what this court is doing, and what they're suggesting can be done.
Okay, now that Joel said almost exactly what I wanted to say,
Read it.
I want to. Brilliant minds think alike, and so do I occasionally, Joel. I want to loop in another story that I think is on our list, and that is that this tape that came out of with Alito being recorded, which I think is the fundamental issue here, right? We're in a culture war. And I may have to grudgingly agree, because I don't want to agree with anything Alito says, that there's not much room for a compromise. There's winners and losers here. And it may be that this is one of those areas in which one side's going to prevail and the other side is simply going to be resistant. And I don't know where we end up with that. I mean, I think we may find out in November where we're going to end up with all of this. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. This is a fundamental issue that I believe, unfortunately, is really wrapped around this notion that white men are concerned that, or a group of white men are concerned that they're not going to be in the majority much longer, which is just factually true. Their numbers are dwindling, and they don't want to go out gracefully, apparently. And we've seen through apartheid how that usually works out.
All the while, they're forgetting history of who really owned this land in the beginning.
Well, wait, Beverly, really? We sold a fair and square. Is I think their attitude.
Just because you're the majority, you wasn't the original owners of the land. So they're going to forget that history. At least Florida is going to make sure history is buried.
Well, Beverly, I know that you have these disclaimer statements, and I think Bill forgot to mention that the land that he's on right now used to be owned by the Fords. Steve,
I think what would be interesting, I've always said, and you guys have heard me say this before, that people who are totally anti-crime and anti-criminal defendants change their tune when a relative or a good friend of theirs gets charged with a crime. I'd like to take these people, the Rick Santorums of the world, who are opposed to abortion or opposed to birth control, whatever. I'd like to put them all under oath or maybe on a polygraph and ask them how they've conducted their own life. Because like Nancy said, you call people who practice rhythm parents. If they really have practiced sex the way they see and they want everybody else to do it, they all have 12 kids. There's just no way they could be doing this. And I think that the hypocrisy, that to me is the biggest, the Jim and Tammy Faye Backer stuff, all these preachers, it's the hypocrisy that drives me the craziest. I think that trying to tell women what they can do, trying to tell Jews what they can do or Arabs what they can do, that's one thing. But the hypocrisy of it, knowing full well they don't live like that. There's no way they live like that unless they have 14 kids. That's all there is to it.
Well, in England, it's not the rhythm method, it's the cadence method. So a completely different thing altogether. Well, the other case that came down actually this morning was a 6-3 opinion along ideological lines. The majority opinion penned by Clarence Thomas, he of the many trips, now semi-disclosed. And this had to do with a bump stock regarding, I guess, something that you put on the back of a gun, which makes even a semi-automatic weapon, not a fully automatic weapon, but it makes it pretty fast when it comes to shooting out bullets, something in the hundreds per minute. Any big surprise? Yeah, Steve.
Oh. You just took my schmucks of the week, all 6 of them with Thomas in the starring role. Nobody is more opposed to guns on the planet than me. You guys have heard me. We should teach everybody how to box. You don't have to worry too much about shooting each other. We can all just have a little boxing match or wrestling match. And the things that they've done, the Supreme Court has done, starting with Scalia's opinion, there's a Second Amendment right for all of us to walk around fully armed. This to me is just so beyond the pale. And that's why I say, I saw it when you saw it, Saeed, and I said that those are my schmucks of the week. When's it going to ever end? Are they going to say 8-year-olds can carry around machine guns to 3rd grade? I mean, I don't know where it's going to go.
They can have babies. Right. Why not?
I just want to say, I remember in October 1, 2017, a guy, Stephen Paddock, who killed 60 people, wounded 413 in Las Vegas. And that's how the bump stock really came to the forefront. I mean, it was so obvious. I mean, machine guns are illegal. Why would a device that converts a semi-automatic into an automatic not be illegal? And for some unforetold reason, we're seeing this thing come alive. I mean, a lot of people have bump stocks, but they should be illegal. There's absolutely, just like, seriously, I mean, AK-47 should be illegal, except for, law enforcement or whatever. But it's just insane. The whole Second Amendment has just been so bastardized over
Exactly. And on that point, agree just what the Supreme Court just continues to defy logic. Irregardless of the mental illness, that issue that's not being dealt with, easy access to guns, the shootings and everything. I mean, I can't even believe, why do you need a semi-automatic to rapidly shoot more faster with all the other issues that you need to be addressing? Mental illness is huge, and they have access to the weapon.
Do you mean of the justices, or do you mean in society, Beverly?
The justices.
When it comes to mental illness.
Oh,
okay. Joel.
Beverly, the answer is yes.
Was going to be that the opinions by Thomas on the cases like this and by the Republican conservatives court, it's just an adoption of the NRA position that any concession is an entire concession. It's a slippery slope. And so, that's going to be one of the issues that we can't compromise on, according to these justices. They see the Second Amendment as an absolute. It's not an absolute, but they see it as an absolute. And so we're going to keep seeing these opinions until the composition of the court is changed.
And it's too bad, Joel, they don't see the First Amendment as an absolute, but that's I guess a different show. Yeah. Nancy.
The other thing is, I don't think this has anything to do with all of their, bleeding about personal protection, blah, blah, blah. It's way more cynical than that. This is about selling more guns. And I came across this astonishing statistic. I can't relate it with perfect accuracy, but it's basically there's something like 360 million firearms in this country, but the people who own them own a lot of them. So there's a lot of people like us who don't own any. And then there's people like some of my neighbors who probably have 25 or 30. And it's just, it's like a fetish. It's like collecting, Pokemons or whatever. I mean, what do they do? Fondle these things? I don't get it, but
it's like anything else. People collect guitars, people collect whatever people collect.
At least you can play a guitar.
Yeah,
I mean,
masculine. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons.
If you look at the numbers, like after Whitmer was elected, gun sales went up.
Right. Oh, and Obama.
Ammunition, and when Obama,
yes, Obama's like, oh, the colors are coming.
They do. And there has, to my knowledge, not a single gun has been taken away from a single person.
No.
It's just it's this boogeyman that they keep pulling up out of the attic and going, ooh, look what's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I'm no safer. I'm in more danger.
Because when you look at the gun sales went up more, but then you also look at these crazy thoughts like, I'm going to kidnap a governor. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That is crazy.
Those people. Yep.
So speaking of guns, another case involving a gun. First son Hunter Biden was convicted in a federal gun trial for lying on a statement regarding a gun. And I think, Alan, you've got a video dealing with this.
Yes, we do.
You would think this news would definitively disprove the GOP's ludicrous notion that Joe Biden is somehow pulling the strings to target his political opponents, since he can't even get the Justice Department to lay off his own son. But that's not how the GOP's reality distortion field works. Their conspiracy theories are unfalsifiable. They can't be disproven. When one lie is debunked, a bigger, crazier lie takes its place, because now the same Republicans who spent months demanding Hunter Biden's prosecution are claiming that actually the prosecution of Hunter Biden is just a distraction.
Everybody knows what this trial with Hunter Biden was about. This is about smoke and mirrors. This is the red herring. This is a distraction.
This entire trial has been a major distraction from the real crimes of the corrupt Biden crime family.
Jeez. I gotta say something here. If any of you have had, and I'll be blunt, if any of you have ever had junkies in the family, it's the most horrible thing.
Yeah.
And you spend your life, you're waiting for the call. You're waiting.
Exactly.
You wait for the call, and you hide your jewelry.
Yes.
You do things that you never ever thought you would have to do, and it's the most heartbreaking thing. My family has lost 2 young ones to this terrible fit, and I feel so bad for Joe Biden and Jill Biden and Hunter Biden, who seems to be, he's a privileged douche, but he really does seem to be trying to be sober. It's horrible. And the Justice Department did exactly what it was supposed to do in the 2 big cases that we had. They did exactly the right thing. They found the correct person guilty 2 times. Because you can feel sorry for Hunter Biden, but he broke the law because he was a junkie.
Exactly. And it just goes to prove that no one's above the law.
And you can have I have so much sympathy for them and for him, and I wish him nothing but well in his journey to sobriety. But this whole thing has just made me nuts, because it's fucking heartbreaking to go through this.
The other thing is, you don't hear Democrats saying it was rigged. Right? Nobody's attacking the justice system saying, "Oh my God, they've targeted us a witch hunt. It's the worst prosecution ever in the history of prosecutions." Nobody's saying that. No Democrat is saying that, and that's the stark difference between the parties. I think the Democrats do respect the justice system, even though it's completely fucked up.
And I'm glad the president stepped up and said he's not going to try to mute or do anything.
Right. Which is the exact opposite of what the other side would do. So it really shows us quite a bit of the philosophy and the demeanor of both parties.
Fishman.
Barb, I think what you said is the only good thing that came of this whole thing. I can't tell you how many articles where people saying exactly what you said. I saw something about the percentage of the population. It's something like 16 or 18 or 20% of the public has had some situation like this. And the only good thing that came from this case is I think a lot of people were able to look and say, God damn, that must be impossible to do as a family. and you've had it personally, so that's something that everybody's talking about.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bill.
Go ahead, Alan.
I was going to say real quick. I mean, there is an argument to be made here that Hunter, what happened to Hunter Biden in this particular case should not. It should have been diversion, what it originally was, and not a criminal case. But it was so political that the Justice Department said, "All right, let's look it over again." Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
What happened in this case, and I would love this guy, Abby Lowell, supposed to be this big shot lawyer. I'm sure he's made $1 zillion off this case. No, we just had a long discussion yesterday, 3 of us, 3 criminal lawyers. No criminal lawyer worth his or her salt stands in front of a federal judge, supposedly making a deal on a case, and don't agree on what's going to happen to the other things. For instance, his income tax investigation.
Right.
And so you guys understand this. This is a little bullshit case, no doubt about it. But from what I see of that income tax case, you're talking about failure to pay over $2 million in income taxes. There's no way that any U.S. Attorney's Office, in my view at least, was going to agree to dismiss a case like that in return for diversion on this bullshit. And they stood in front of a federal judge, and it wasn't the judge's fault. They asked, what's the deal? One side says one thing and one side says the other. How can you come to court? How could any of us come to court without having an agreement if we're going to stand in front of a federal judge? So to me, I'll never understand that. And I'd love for that lawyer to explain it to us.
Mm-hmm. I agree with
that.
that.
Look, I completely, Steve and Joel are just taking everything I was planning on saying today away from me. That's fine. And I think Steve hit it right on the head. But I think that the bigger issue is also what Joel said. This is a case that demonstrates the difference between people who believe in the rule of law and people who don't believe in the rule of law. I made the mistake of getting into it with an old neighbor on Facebook yesterday. I will stop it. It is amazing to me how people get lost in this stuff. But people who can somehow justify everything that Trump has done and say that Trump is the victim and that the system is evil and are willing to destroy the very core foundation of what this country is built on. Because in my opinion, the rule of law is the most fundamental building block of what this country is built on. And Trump's clearly willing to destroy it.
And because it's my job on this panel to lower the tone, I would just like to point out that both of these cases involved a man spending time with a sex worker. I'm saying the Trump hush money case and this one, spending time with a sex worker. Okay. In the case of the President of the United States, it was like 90 minutes, and Stormy Daniels could not get out of that hotel room fast enough. She probably left her panties behind. But Hunter Biden allegedly had a sex worker in the room with him for like 5 days while he smoked crack constantly. And she left saying, he was a really nice guy. I kind of had feelings for him.
Yeah.
Which tells you something about, these two dudes.
Even I was raised right,
Nancy, he has the rhythm.
Yeah.
Cadence.
Well, my guess is he probably didn't have any sex at all. If he was smoking crack, he probably just wanted somebody to listen to him talk. We all know what cocaine does to people, and so it's just like, no, stay here. I want to tell you my theory.
No. All of us don't, Nancy. Please tell me a bedtime story.
Yeah. Tell me another bedtime story.
So on this idea of the hypocrisy of Trump, a couple of things came up this week. One is Mr. Trump goes to Washington and is welcomed and feted by the GOP leadership in Congress, and I think
to kiss his flabby ass. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Alan, I think we have a PG version of that video.
We have a couple here.
Yeah. Trump was back on Capitol Hill for the first time since January 6th. And it must have felt like visiting your old high school, Walking the halls, so many memories flooding back. I remember Joey taking a dump over there. Blake beat up a cop right over there. We tried to hang Mikey over there. Just outside there, I told everyone to be peaceful.
And then we have another part of his discussion with congressional members.
As you know, the Republican National Convention is in Milwaukee this summer, and apparently he just can't wait to fly in.
Trump said, quote, Milwaukee, where we are having our convention, is a horrible city.
Hey, I may not be from Wisconsin, but I am from Michigan. And let me just say, don't mess with the Midwest, buddy. We will politely ask you to please stop and then thank you in advance, and that's a threat.
I watched Top. Milwaukee looks lovely.
It is a
What the hell
lovely
are you
city.
talking
I was having, my best friend lives in Milwaukee, and we were having a text exchange about this. And what we came up with was he doesn't give a shit. Milwaukee is like Detroit. It's a largely black city full of Democrats, and he's probably just figuring, you know, it's and the people who live in outstate Wisconsin have the same thoughts about it that they do about Detroit. It's like, I want it there so I can come into town for a Brewers game, but then I want to get out as quickly as I can. And basically I'd rather the Brewers move to the suburbs. So I think what he's gambling on, or if he even had any forethought to this, is there are enough white racist outstaters who will counterbalance the insult to black Milwaukeeans.
Trump and forethought, those two words don't go together.
Yeah, they really don't.
There's a Three Stooges line where Larry goes to the induction board and they say, "Were you born in this country?" And he says, "No, Milwaukee."
I like the mayor of Milwaukee, who was kind of like,
it is a lovely city, though.
Well, I think, Nance, you said something about forethought. I think you're assuming a fact, not an evidence.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys all saw the discussion of the sharks and the boats and the electrocution. Why don't the major news networks? I mean, I don't know. I don't watch 2, 4, and 7. That shows how old I am. 2, 4, and 7. Do they show that stuff on the nightly news on CBS?
I don't think they do.
If you saw the look on the faces of the morons that come to us, they all kind of were going, "What? Sharks, electrocution?" There's no forethought. It's just stream of consciousness, idiot.
Yeah.
But again,
it does. Go ahead.
But again, I think everybody on the panel will agree, Trump's just an idiot and he does these things. The problem are people like Mitch McConnell, who stood up and said on January 6th that Trump was both morally and practically responsible for what happened. He egged it on. He was the cause of it. And he goes and kisses his, to be kind, ring, but probably his fat butt. Yesterday, it doesn't make any sense that we continue to elect people who do not have the moral fortitude to be able to say what this person does is wrong, and we can't support them.
Yes,
it's not that complicated.
It's even worse than that. I happened to be watching my girlfriend Nicole Wallace on TV yesterday afternoon. That's what I refer to her as, my girlfriend. So I was watching my girlfriend's show, and literally they had just had the gathering where they all were kissing his fat ass. And in 15 minutes, this guy Jake Sherman that you just saw quoted by there, they had a half a dozen Republicans talking to him off the record, saying what a lunatic the guy was. He made no sense. And not one of them, what Bill's saying is true, not one of them would go on my girlfriend's show and say, "You know what? I just listened to the guy. He's lost his mind entirely."
Well,
but they were telling people, they were telling reporters off the record about how crazy the guy is.
And this morning on CNN, they had a Republican congressman from Tennessee, Tim Burchett, who's on the Armed Services Committee. And when Jim Acosta asked him this question about what Trump may have said about Milwaukee and other things, he says, I didn't hear him say that. I must have been in the bathroom.
Right, they're all in the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that incontinence probably is a big thing in the GOP caucus, but I mean, they could go ahead and wait a little bit.
That's like Trump is kind of like what happens. Any policeman will tell you that's what happens when there's a shooting in a bar.
I'm just about to tell you that. Tried murder cases. You got 27 people here. The bathroom is big enough maybe for 2 people, and 25 of them at the time of the shooting are in the bathroom. I never saw it. I was in the bathroom, and you finally say to him, "How did you guys all get in there?"
especially because it's a paid toilet. Well, I mean, and you saw another one of Trump's geishas, Jim Jordan from Ohio, was able to get the vote for Attorney General Merrick Garland to be held in contempt of Congress for not handing over the tapes of the voice recordings of a transcript which had already been provided. So Congress has these things to do, but no real movement on legislation, I suppose. Allan, why don't we go to a commercial?
All right, let me get to the commercial.
Without Project Clean Slate, there is no telling where I would be right now.
It gave him back his life, because once he got the felony, it seemed like life was over.
Being unemployed, being depressed, being a burden. Project Clean Slate helped wipe those things away. I can't say thank you enough. I am now able to work for a reputable airline. Detroit had my back, all because I live in Detroit.
Fellas, I'm new in town, and I've been here a couple times. I absolutely love your place, man. But I've got to ask you, if you can, I've heard that you're going to be shutting this place down.
I'm not proud of it, brother, but we're behind our property taxes. The county is all over us, man. I'm even afraid to even give them a call.
Well, we can't let it go, brother. I mean, we can't give up. There's got to be a GoFundMe campaign that we can run, even past the plate. Is there a forgiveness program or something that's out there?
Well, unfortunately, that's only for the big guys. No, actually, Wayne County has payment plans for everyone.
Are you for real?
Yes, it's a well-designed program. We want to help you save your business.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. If you have delinquent taxes on your home or business, contact our office, 313-224-5990, or visit our website, treasurer.waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Got it.
He's everywhere.
Academy Award winning. I'm sorry.
It just kills me every time. Oh, look, here he is.
Wait a minute. Where's Waldo?
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think we should probably use it chronologically to match the haircut with the other video. So locally, we had the start of a rather somber case, which was the murder trial for Jewish synagogue leader in Detroit, or downtown synagogue leader Sam Woll. Allan, I know you've been covering the investigation and now the trial. So where are we right now?
The prosecution's presenting the case. I followed the opening statements, and I thought one very interesting thing was they're trying to put together a timeline. So the defense is saying, my client, at 4:20, there was a motion detector in the apartment. So they're kind of hanging their hat on that as a time where the murder may have happened. And so he says at 4:23, 4:24, my client is seen in Greektown. So there's no way he could have done that and then suddenly been in Greektown, which is just across the freeway there. But interestingly, before he argues that, the defense attorney says, because he's got blood, there's spots of blood on the coat and on his North Face jacket and on his backpack. And so they're trying to, the prosecution says there's no explanation for how that could happen. And so the defense attorney says, well, he happened to stumble upon the body and he leaned over and touched it and realized she was dead and ran off. Well, how can you be
blood fly up
and then be after the fact suddenly stumble across the body? So, and then actually the prosecution objected at that point, and the judge told the jury to strike that. So I don't know how they're going to wiggle out of the blood thing. The other thing was that while the defendant was in jail, his girlfriend called and said, hey, I washed the North Face jacket. And he got very angry because they were still able to find spots of blood on it even after the jacket was washed. So I don't know.
Her blood? I assume it was her blood.
Yes, it was her blood. I mean, it was, there were numbers I've never heard of before in terms of the likelihood that it's her blood.
Right. I started following it yesterday too, watching the last 2 days. And a question for you, Steve, because you may know better. Do you know this defense attorney?
What's his name?
Oh, Brian Brown.
I don't know. He's interesting.
Brian Brown, I think.
I haven't really been in state court or in recorder's court, which is where they don't call it recorder's court anymore. I haven't been there in 10 years, I would say. I don't really know the judges anymore because most of the ones my age are retired. And I don't know the prosecutors and I don't know the defense lawyers. I didn't recognize the name. That's why I asked you when I saw it in the paper.
Yeah.
So
I know defense attorneys have to do their job, but the portion I saw, and I know this is what they have to do, try to defend their client, but this little subtle way he's trying to do assassination of her character really disturbed me. And I'm so glad I'm not a juror because that would have pissed me off.
I don't. What kind of assassination of her character?
The vibrator, marijuana in the system, things like that.
Vibrator? He's making a big
vibrator?
deal about that.
Oh yeah,
she's a modern woman, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm like, what's wrong with that? So he's asking, did you guys swap the vibrator? So he's saying it loud. So of course, made folks uneasy. So yeah. So everything trying to lose
even dead women getting victimized by these fucking
exactly.
God damn it.
Because certain people don't have rhythm. Okay, now we're gonna get punished.
Yeah.
You can't trust it. Don't trust it.
I can tell you this, listening to Allan's description, I didn't hear it, and I really didn't read much in the paper about it either, but in any criminal case, in any civil case too, I'm sure, but Joel and Bill can tell you about that. In any criminal case, the defense lawyer has to have a theory, and the theory has to be consistent. In other words, you have to be able to tell the jury an opening statement after the prosecutor is done. Here's why the prosecution is not correct, and here's why you won't find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But you have to have a consistent theory. The business about the blood being after the fact, when you say you were in Greek, I mean, that makes it difficult. Sometimes, though, Beverly, you got to remember, you don't really have a good case, and therefore you're grasping at straws. And it's not like they were offering the guy a plea to manslaughter in 3 to 15. I'm sure he was offered nothing.
But the prosecution, he did object, and then they went and they huddled with the judge, and you can tell when they came back, he kind of strayed a little bit to another conversation because they knew the prosecutor knew the lane he was going down.
But I mean, Beverly, the point that you make, I think, is an important one. I mean, here we are well into the 21st century now, and here's an example of misogyny by the defense attorney. The media coverage of the Trump hush money case, no one missed an opportunity to call Stormy Daniels by her stage name, and also put in there adult film actress or porn star.
Right.
There seems to be kind of open season still on women. I mean, the Southern Baptist Convention voted to oppose in vitro fertilization. I mean, here we are coming all the way back to this whole idea about fertility and abortion and reproductive rights. I mean, what is driving this? I know, Bill, you mentioned that there is this idea of white males being an endangered species, but I mean, if you go ahead and have fertile people, I mean, isn't that a good thing? Barb?
They hate women and they fear women. Mm-hmm. This is the oldest. This is forever. Forever they have hated and feared women, and this is why we got written out of the Bible. This is why we get written out of all of this. This is nothing new happening here.
I don't know, Barb. I think that none of this would be happening if Margaret Atwood hadn't written that book.
I read that book when it came out. And I got to tell you, that thing fucking sent chills down my spine reading it. And that was in the 80s when we thought everything was fine.
Yeah. I think that
Nancy.
I think that part of it, and I said this to somebody this week, I think that part of the objection to diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts by white men is based on their fear, conscious or not, that their mediocre sons will never be able to work if they have to really compete against the rest of the human race. So that's part of it. The other thing I want to say is you're right about the Stormy Daniels is always described as a porn star. It's always been my dream to be a porn extra. So, just background player, it's like everybody who works in pornography is a porn star, it's like, so I think, there's no place for feature roles, character actors, extras.
Never seen one.
I want to be the guy. I want to be the woman in the cocktail scene, in a low cut dress who just like stands in the back while it's.
Oh, it's all happy. Okay, well, let's see if we can get someone to make an offer.
Hey, Barb, if we can scrounge up a couple of wah-wah pedals, we could be the band.
I mean, Nancy, didn't you always want to do, like, even dream of it being the Playboy bunny little outfit and try to lean backwards with the little thing, you know?
The dip, the bunny dip. No, not since I read somewhere that the bunny costume came in 2 sizes, 4 and 8. Okay, I haven't been a size 8 since I was in probably 6th grade. You know, so
I was going to say since I was 8, I haven't been an 8.
Well, there is no place for a comment in this conversation for me. And I'm staying on it.
No, but Barb is right. But here's the thing: these guys aren't going to go walking around saying, "Oh, I hate women. Oh, I love," because they have wives, they have daughters. But for whatever reason,
they might even have a mother.
Yeah, or a mother, right? For whatever reason, they only like some women, and the ones who threaten them or compete with them for jobs or parking places or restaurant reservations or whatever they prize in the world are just seen as less than. There's also this weird subculture, because I spend way too much time on the internet, this weird subculture that Elon Musk has a few toes in, that says that white people are dying out. We need more women to become mothers, to become enthusiastic mothers, to have multiple children. I think Elon's up to 9 or 11 with several different baby mamas, and it's very kind of Nazi Kinderkultur, whatever it is.
Blessed be the fruit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, blessed be the fruit. May the Lord open. So that's part of it too. But I don't want to get off into that tangent.
Yeah, Layla, I want to comment about Layla blames Trump. It'd be easy to go there. The fact of the matter is he just gave voice to it. In this society, what we have been able to do is we haven't been able to change hearts and minds, but we've been able to make inappropriate behavior, sexual molestation, sexual harassment in the workplace, other things, socially unacceptable. Trump turned that back around and said, why should that be socially unacceptable?
Since I do it.
Entitled to this. Yeah, we're entitled to this. This is a birthright. And so he gave voice to the bigotry and made it socially acceptable. That's what's so dangerous about Trump. Unfortunately, the underlying sex harassment and racism and ethnocentrism has never left. Mm-hmm. But we made it socially unacceptable, which I think was more appropriate. Right.
It really began to be very public again with Rush Limbaugh and his feminazi. The big public pushback. But if you guys remember back in the 80s, not just Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas, which should have been a huge flag, but there was a young woman in Rhode Island who was gang raped in a bar, and it was
I remember that case. Yeah,
and it was one of those stories that just tore people apart because
what was she doing in there? What was
I knew guys that I thought were really married men with daughters. Exactly. What was she doing? And she was probably dressed a certain way.
She was probably drunk, and she, right? Yeah.
He had a comment. Everything about it had a comment.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna push back a little bit on Layla's comment. You also had, first of all, Rush Limbaugh even went after a teenage Chelsea Clinton and her looks.
Wow.
But what about the era of Clinton with Jennifer Flowers and Juanita Broaddrick and a couple of the others? The idea about privileged men getting away with things. William Kennedy Smith, similarly. It seems as though this is pretty endemic. Alan?
I was going to say, there's always arguments that people say, blame it on Trump, blame it on Hitler, or was it the people were there already? They just brought it out. And my theory is always that the people like Trump and Hitler have the brilliance to tap into what has not been tapped into, and finding and releasing, taking the lock off the barn door and letting it all out. It's there, but it's their brilliance and insight that is able to untap that. So I do blame them.
I also want to say another big thing that I think we haven't mentioned yet, and the talk station in Fort Wayne, Indiana, was one of the very, very first to pick up Rush Limbaugh back when he had like 5 stations. One of them was in Fort Wayne. I listened to him for 10 minutes and I turned it off and I said, "This is a fat guy who cannot score with chicks." And you know what? I'd never seen a picture of him. I had never seen anything, but I'm like, he's got problems with women sexually. I mean, not that he can't perform, but that he can't. He's a fat guy, and pretty girls aren't interested in him, right? For whatever reason.
He was married many times.
Yeah, he was married several times, just like Trump, etc. And so I think that the failure of these guys also think that they have some kind of sexual right to women, that they have, because they're horny, they get to have as much sex as they want with whoever they want. And the fact that a woman will turn them down or wants a commitment or whatever, that's what really rubs them the wrong way. And I think it's
money and power.
Yeah,
but you see the hypocrisy with somebody who could be as unattractive as Perry Johnson running for Senate, and nobody cares. And then you've got the kind of attacks on physical attributes that Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin faces and still does when she's running for Senate. But the Detroit Free Press published a very strong endorsement for Congresswoman Slotkin. But I think it went a little bit even further than that by giving a fairly decent rebuke of her primary challenger, actor and small business owner Hill Harper, with some of the accusations that he was making that the Free Press actually took the trouble to go ahead and refute within the endorsement. I know, Allan, you were reviewing that endorsement fairly carefully.
Right. I'm trying to remember. She was misrepresented about black staffers. He was saying stuff that just wasn't true, and it's really it's a sad commentary. I mean, look, he's desperate. He doesn't have the money. He tries to put out. I think he was in law school with Obama, and he's not happy Obama hasn't come here. But Obama's not going to get in the middle of a Democratic primary. But
Obama was here. Obama was here at the DIA, but for something different.
Right. Yeah. But he was misstating a lot of her policy and stances.
Well, I mean, he accused her of militarism. She was in grad school in New York when 9/11 happened. It was her second day of grad school, and she said, "Look, I mean, we're a nation under attack," and she then enlisted in the CIA. And became an analyst. So, I mean, this whole idea about painting her as a warmonger seems like a real desperation of throwing pasta against the wall and hoping something will stick. But we also have no lack of chutzpah in this state. Former GOP Attorney General nominee Matt DePerno, who, by the way, has been charged with tampering with voting machines, among other indictments, has announced his bid for the Michigan Supreme Court.
Yes. He's
you know what, Allan?
A horrible candidate.
I tweeted something and inadvertently included him in my. Apparently, I was replying to one guy, and I also replied to him. He used in his openings or in his statement why he was running. He used the term attorney generals, and I said I'm going to have the same discussion with you that I used to have with my old editor who did not understand that the plural is attorney general, but that's okay. And he responded. He
needs some learning.
Yeah, wasn't he fired from?
I actually hope he gets a Republican nomination.
I agree.
Yeah.
I hope he gets it.
Will be great.
He'd be easy to beat.
I think he was fired from a law firm after he got into a physical altercation with a client in the offices. It's like even Fishman, the boxer, has probably never done that.
So
no.
Actually, Joel and Bill, when the three of you open up that office in Grosse Pointe, is there going to be an actual ring and a punching bag in the office?
Feedback.
No, We leave that to Ben Johnson. He's the fighter. If you guys have seen his billboards, I'm sure.
I saw it.
Just so you know, Ben has never been in a boxing match in his life. I have that on good authority. But it's a great selling point, though. I think it's done real well for him.
Boxing gloves are like they're a very recognizable, symbol for fighting. So
he may never have been in the box. He may never have been in a boxing ring, but the fact of the matter is that man knows how to fight in the ring of the courtroom.
No doubt.
He's outstanding at it.
Absolutely.
Well, Steve, I mean, I know you were a big basketball player, but you probably never got into a hockey brawl. So before we go to the next segment, I think, Allan, we've got a video dealing with the Stanley Cup.
The Stanley Cup, which if any of you are following, it's between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. Last night, the Panthers went ahead 3-0. The Panthers have never won Stanley Cup before. And here's one of the Florida fans.
There you go. You will be, I will say, I think you will agree even that you'll be hard-pressed to find a fan more enthusiastic than this young Panther supporter.
You're here supporting the Panthers. What does this mean to you? This is a monumental moment in my life. I have been here since day one of my birth, 2011. And I just can't wait to see my team happily host the Cup. Wow! Let's go!
I love it.
I love it.
Like it.
I'm so old. I don't even. I can't wrap my head around hockey in Florida. It's a winter sport. It belongs to the upper Midwest and the country to our north. So
I agree.
Yeah.
They have two
And
teams.
the Stanley Cup in the middle of June. I mean, the ice must be melting in the arena. It's like 95 degrees in Florida.
Yeah.
Allan, let's go to our last segment.
All right.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
All right. Well, I know some of you have been playing Schmuck Bingo, so hopefully you've had time to think of other schmucks as well. But we're going to go ahead and start with you, Beverly.
Okay, I this week, no other schmuck than the Supreme Court. I know that's a lot of everyone's, but I cannot. With two decisions that came down yesterday and the one today, I mean, I just really, it's sad to me. This is the highest court of the land. And even though we joke about a lot of things, we laugh through our tears. And so they are my schmuck of the week. And most of them, not all of them, but most of them at the decisions that came down and they cited on yesterday and today. Schmuck of the week. Mine is Supreme Court for sure.
Good one.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. All right. Joel.
I'm going to go in that vein. Specifically to Clarence Thomas, where it was disclosed that he got even more gifts and bounty from Harlan Crow. And so every decision this man has made forever is subject to question, quite frankly. It appears to me he can be bought and sold. That's the appearance that it's given. And the failure of Chief Roberts to do anything, the failure of the court to regulate itself is an embarrassment. And he is the chief embarrassment. What he is dripping out, what's becoming more and more apparent, is just the inherent corruption with this court specifically. I think, for Thomas and what he's doing, it's awful. So he's much more.
Got it. Steve.
I'm glad to see that so many people agreed with my initial thought about having the Supreme Court as the schmucks of the week. So I'm changing, because I was ordered to by our MC, by our maestro. Ted Cruz is now my schmuck of the week. And the reason he's my schmuck of the week, you all remember the things that Trump said about his wife and his father back in 2016. And when I was seeing all of the toadies welcome him, Ted Cruz was standing, it would have been to our left, but to Trump's right. And he was clapping away, and he had this shit-eating grin on his face. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a guy who went to, I think, Harvard Law or Harvard undergrad or something like that, right?
Princeton undergrad, Harvard Law.
Yeah, a fairly well-educated person. And I'm thinking, as I'm watching him smiling and clapping, what am I doing smiling and clapping for a guy who accused my father of participating in the fucking Kennedy assassination and said that my wife, I don't know, was a hoe or something like that.
Ugly.
So, Ted, if you're the fact that they're able to do something like that after what he'd gone through, he's my schmuck of the week now that Clarence Thomas has been taken by others.
and just for clarification, I didn't order you to do that, Steve, but don't you feel cleansed now that you have an original?
Yes, I'm very cleansed.
Barb.
We have a bird in the house, or what's
I
going
think
on?
it's Bill. I've muted Bill. I think we've got a bird in the background there.
Okay.
Okay.
I have two, and I'm gonna go quickly with one. It's the entire Republican Party besmirching, befouling my city of Detroit right now. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a nice city, and it makes me sick. But the one that really sticks in my mind right now is Samuel Alito's wife. That woman,
Martha Ann.
she's nuts. And she is scary, and she reminds me of when you watch old movies about the Nazis and their wives that were just as bad, like Goring's wife. She's really a terrifying person, and she sees nothing wrong with the flag she put up.
I'm not sure if Goering had a wife, Barb, but I think you might mean Goebbels' wife.
Goebbels, sorry about that. The one that put the capsules in her kid's mouth, and
By the way, I-75. This was the electronic billboard at I-75 in Warren in Midtown, because
I like
Trump is supposed to have two appearances this weekend. One on Saturday in the late afternoon at a church on the West Side.
Yeah, where he's going to lead a roundtable discussion.
Right, roundtable discussion. That must be it. Roundtable discussion. Say it again.
Barb,
oh my God,
Barb, I'm so spooked by Marjorie Taylor Greene being in town. I actually got a T-shirt that says "I'm not a yoga instructor." I don't want the seduction going in that direction. So, Bill.
Well, I'm going to stay out of politics. Not that you guys missed a few. Alito probably deserved it, and so did Mitch McConnell. But I'm going to go with the Florida Department of Ignorance. Oh, I'm sorry, Florida Department of Education, who is attempting to take the license of a teacher, a Miss Donna Frios, license away because she had the temerity. This is a white woman teaching in a predominantly black school who had the temerity to put up a Black Lives Matters banner and wear a mask. She was teaching in a school called the Robert E. Lee High School, and they're trying to change the name. And she had a mask that said, "I'm not a gang member," which demonstrated some personal political opinions that caused her to be terminated from her job. She sued the school district, won $300,000, but in spite of winning that lawsuit, the Florida Department of Education is attempting to take her teaching license away permanently.
Wow.
That is just the most amazing story I have seen recently, and tell you what it's like down in Florida and where we are in these cultures.
Where they are playing hockey, and it is wrong. So
right.
And they had this rain in like 24 hours. Nothing going on down there.
Bill, by the way, this is the same state where a school district went ahead and banned a book that's about banning books. So
right.
There you go. All right, Nancy.
Well, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to go with the board and staff, not the staff, but the board or whoever at the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club agreed to be the staging area for this weekend's MAGA boat parade, which I'm told is being done in honor of President Trump's birthday, which is today. Former President Trump, I should say. Disgraced former President Trump. I think it's hilarious.
Convicted.
They're calling it, yes. They're calling it, apparently they want all these MAGA idiots in their boats to kind of come up to the yacht club. Please don't come into our club, however, though this is a private facility. And they're going to have some sort of flagship that is docked there that's going to lead the parade. And I guess they're probably going to go up into Macomb County where they belong. And a country club, a yacht club is a fragile thing. And I cannot believe in this suburb that the entire membership is down with this. There have to be some people there who are just furious about it, but they went ahead and said it was okay. So there we go.
Is it
it's
endorsed
like
by
Jobby Nooner?
Yeah, I was just going to say, is it endorsed by Jobby Nooner?
What's very funny though is the Michigan Conservative Coalition which is backing this and sponsoring it and announced it on their Facebook page, managed to misspell gross, point, and yacht. So there's like 4 words in the location, and they misspelled 3 of them.
Come on.
They dropped the E's from gross and point, and they spelled yacht, yatch, Y-A-T-C-H. So they are.
The guest speaker.
We were waiting.
Nancy, they're probably from west of Lasher.
Yeah.
Allan.
I've got 2 quick ones. Lindsey Graham for blocking the Democrats in the Senate from trying to get some type of ethics reform for the Supreme Court. For God forbid we should, probe into their, unethical behavior. And the other one is Steve Bannon, who on his podcast said Andrew McCabe, the former deputy director of the FBI and former acting director of the FBI, should get out of the country because when Trump comes in, he's gonna get arrested. So,
wow,
grief. What a thug!
I know.
Okay, well, my schmuck is actually a Shonda, and it's the U.S. government for apparently obstructing an investigation into the 2019 death of 19-year-old British teenage motorcyclist Harry Dunn, who was run over by an American woman, Anne Sapoulis, a wife of a U.S. diplomat, who then fled to the United States claiming diplomatic immunity for what she did. She was sentenced finally over video link in December 2022 to 8 months in prison, suspended for a year for causing death by careless driving. Of course, she doesn't have to serve it because she's here in the United States, and I'm imagining she's probably not flying to London anytime soon. But it seems as though the U.S. government is still not cooperating with the U.K. government in its inquest into Dunn's death, which, of course, is just adding to the grief of his family. At the time, the U.S. ambassador was Woody Johnson, I believe thank you, Layla, the owner of the New York Jets, which now makes sense that Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet, who told the UK government that after Dunn died, there were, quote, far more important things in Harry's life to go ahead and focus on.
Wow.
And so, again, when you have at the very highest levels the U.S. government not adhering to rule of law, I'm not sure that does much for our credibility around the world. So they're my schmucks and my shondas for the week.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Well, thank you for another great session of the week that was. Thank you, Joel Sklar. Thank you, Steve Fishman. Thank you, Bill Seikaly. Thank you, Beverly Watts. Thank you, Barb Ingalls. Thank you, Nancy Derringer. Sayonara, Steve. And with the last word, and thanks always to Allan Lengel.
Drive home safely.